we've been getting so many compliments. We go to Pennsylvania, we go to Jamaica, and they're like, "Oh, you look so amazing." And if you know Jamaican people, they're very extra, especially if you put a pound on, you were so big. But this time when we went home, everyone was like, "You guys look so amazing. You still look so amazing. What are you doing?"
Hello, guys, and welcome to the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan channel. I'm excited. Today is going to be awesome. I have an amazing couple that just graduated our 90-day transformation program, and they have some golden nuggets for you guys. So, if you're watching this, if you're busy, put everything down and listen because I honestly believe that there are some golden nuggets here that can be very useful for you, especially if you have been a perpetual yo-yo dieter. Maybe you've been on many different plans and maybe things have worked, but you've gained the weight back and it's always been this cycle of losing weight, gaining weight. This conversation, I think, will be very, very inspirational. And I'm excited to have two members, but more importantly, throughout this process, they've become friends and they have an amazing story to tell us. So, welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. And you guys just graduated the 90 days. You did amazing without counting macros, calories, points, or weighing food, which is unheard of. Tell us a bit
Yeah.
about that, guys. How was that journey?
I would say like we haven't really gone on a program, but we tried on our own vegetable diet or cutting out sugars, and it just haven't worked because we are very inconsistent. And I thought I was disciplined until I realized I'm not. And so this program, my husband actually gave us as an anniversary present. Yeah, for our 7th anniversary. It was not the gift I was expecting, but it's what we needed. And I can see that now.
For sure. You're like, Ed, can we just have some pina coladas and hang out for our
Yeah.
anniversary? Versus,
Or gold, jewelry. Yeah.
yeah, I think he was trying to get back at you some way, somehow,
I think
which,
so too.
which
I'll,
now is
I'll, I'll, I'll keep my mouth shut for now.
which is paid off. But you guys are both Jamaican, and so right, you have the
Yes.
amazing jerk chicken, a lot of rice,
Yes.
a lot of beans, right? And
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
were you guys fearful when you came on because you're like, man, they're gonna take away my idol?
Yes, I was the open guy. I'm like, I need to. I've been thinking about losing weight for some time, and I'm like, I'm ready. But she was kind of like, oh man, it's gonna be hard giving up a lot of these things. Like we eat a lot of rice, a lot of bread, a lot of flour stuff, and um, a lot of junk. Let's say that.
A lot of good
So it
food.
was kind of hard. But we dived right in. She was on board after a while, and then we decided to take the plunge.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm actually originally Colombian, so I get that. The food is very, very similar, by the way. It's all rice,
Hmm.
beans, and flour and cornstarch and all these things that,
Yeah.
people on the other side are probably saying, well, what's wrong with that, right? Isn't that healthy? Because we grew up, like, I don't know about you, but my grandma was always like, you got to eat your rice and you got to
Oh
eat your
yeah.
beans. And,
Hmm.
and, and it's real funny because Spanish people think beans are a vegetable. And so,
Yeah.
Hey,
right? So,
you know
so
what? I, I'll probably send you a picture of a meal that her parents prepared for my 25th or so birthday. It's like a big bowl, a big plate of rice and beans with a little chunk of meat and a little chunk of vegetables. So, and that was the typical meal,
Yeah.
like daily.
wow,
So
wow.
that was like every day.
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you guys watching this interview and thinking like, oh, is the Empty Your Bucket plan subscribing to, demonizing carbs or anything? That's not the point. We don't demonize any food groups, but what we're
Right.
talking about here, guys, basically the fact that when you bring high insulinogenic foods like rice and beans and potatoes and breads and pastas, and you have a high starch, low protein diet, that's a troubling combination, right? And that
Hmm.
eventually will get us in trouble. So fast forward coming to the program, first of all, were you guys hungry throughout the process?
The initial, probably first 2 weeks, yes, because our body was like readjusting, but after that, no. The first 2 weeks were horrible. I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell you that it was horrible. But then you start to learn and to train your mind and muscle, and it gets easier as the time goes by.
for sure, for sure. So that retraining really is your body, right, has two forms of fuel: sugar and fat. When you mostly eat sugar stuff, carbohydrates that yield a lot of insulin, your body primarily burns sugar. And so
Hmm.
when you get away from that and your body is making that adjustment and starting to burn, because now the foods are more, some of those reliable fats that we bring in, that adjustment period is right there. It's right about, we always say between 8 to 12 days. So right about 2 weeks. But after that, how did you feel after you got over that first hump of like hunger and
I would say it became much easier. A part of the I believe a part of what made it the first 2 weeks so hard was that we knew nothing. We came into this kind of blank, and the type of meals to prepare, how to prepare them. We were just doing
Bare
the
minimum.
raw veg and meat because we thought that's what we had to do.
Mhm.
And man, she especially got tired of the vegetable, the lettuce and what was the other one? Broccoli. She hates broccoli now. So
right?
but it's like those 2 weeks, but then the third week, and we reached out to you, and you were like, "Hey, you can
Yeah.
switch things up, do this, do that, and make the meal much more
Feel.
palatable, appealing. Enhance here or there." I'm like, oh, then things started to become interesting, and then it was much easier to, you know,
Digest.
to digest,
Yeah,
but to
totally.
maintain the diet.
For sure, for sure. Isn't it interesting that we all operate with these blinders on, right?
Yes.
That's all we know. Like this is the way we do it, and then all of a sudden someone says something and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
have you tried this?" And all of a sudden those blinders open up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And I
And we,
think that's why a lot of people don't enjoy diet plans, because they think they have to just be in this box, or you can only have this. And you can get creative and still stay within,
for
what
sure,
you're supposed to do.
for sure. I always tell the story about a playground that didn't have a fence, and the kids were only
Mm-hmm.
allowed to play on a little patch of the playground because there was a busy intersection. And so the
Mm-hmm.
parents and the students, the professors were always very scared of the kids, going over to the busy intersection. So they would just play on a patch. But then some people came together and put up a fence. Once that fence went up, they were able to utilize the entire playground, right?
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
And I like that analogy because oftentimes we think that boundaries are there to restrict us, but actually what they do is provide freedom, right?
Yes.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys in the course of 90 days, Ed, how much weight have you lost?
31 pounds or
32.
32? Yeah, 32.
32 pounds. And Haiti, you've lost
I think I've lost the same, like 32.
32.
Yeah.
Okay.
31, 32, yeah.
So roughly 65 pounds between the two of you guys, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the course of 90 days, you've learned some things. You've reset your palate. I'm sure that you've gone back to some things and you're like, that doesn't taste as good as I thought it
Yeah, and
would, right?
salt is just so expensive. I'm like, oh my God, this is so salt. This is so sweet. And I was enjoying those stuff earlier. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm a new girl.
So interesting. So interesting because you don't know what you don't know. So when your palate is desensitized to the high salt, high sugar, high fat, that's
Yeah.
what it is. But when you get away from it and then you come back, you go, wow, that's so
Yeah.
sugary or so salty or so rich.
Yeah.
So that's that process of retraining the palate. Hence the reason we say that there's a lot of sustainability in this program because we're not just focused on mechanics. The vast majority of programs, like you guys mentioned, let me cut sugar, let me cut this, let me cut that, never progressively bring those other food groups in, which makes it
Right.
very unsustainable. Instead, we say, hey,
Mhm.
phase one, we do this. Phase two, we reincorporate some of those foods. Phase three, now you have the ability to have a cheat meal. You have the ability to bring certain things in. And at that point, we've reset your palate. And more importantly, we've reset the way your brain perceives reward in regards to food.
Yeah.
Talk to me
Absolutely.
a little bit about that process. Like, how do you guys view food now? I mean, obviously, it's enjoyable. It should be that. But has there been a change in perspective from a mindset?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Usually, we I wouldn't think about what I'm gonna eat. I just like, okay, what do you feel for today? Let's just grab
Yeah.
anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like I'm actively thinking about what am I gonna eat? What am I gonna cook later? If I had bread earlier this morning, what do I have later? All of that stuff is constantly I'm constantly thinking about. And also, a part of coming onto this program, we were not thinking about like the spiritual side of it. Honestly, like we would just wanted to lose weight and let's get this done. But then you start to appreciate and understand how important it is to take care of your body. All of these things are started to come to light when we actually like know that I have lost. You might hear our son in the background.
So this is cool because hear me out. A lot of people have the excuse like, "Oh, I have kids, JT. You don't understand. Like, I can't do it because I have kids." But you guys have kids as well. So I'm glad he came into the
Yes,
picture because that's another big
yes,
component that obviously this can be done regardless of whether you have a family or not. It's a little harder, but it can be done.
yeah,
But coming back to the spiritual aspect of things, right? This is another unique component inside of our program because, I don't think in any way, shape, or form you guys felt like, we were imposing any kind of beliefs, but yet
No.
you yourself started to recognize, hey, there's an actual
Yeah.
spiritual component in this, right? And I
yeah,
and I love to speak about that because I'm a man of faith, I'm a Christian, and I bring my convictions to everything I do. And so I've recognized this early on when I first, when the Lord came into my heart, and I was already in the industry. He kind of repurposed those talents for me to be able to see it for what it truly is, which is stewardship of the temple, right? I
absolutely.
think I think that when you view it from that perspective, it takes on a whole other level because prior to that, you just focus on the very superficial stuff, the aesthetics. I want to look a certain way. I want to feel a certain way. And
Yeah.
even though I think those things are valid, if your convictions are strong and you're looking to glorify God through everything you do, then this becomes a very natural thing, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think it's we often say that food is the Christian crack, right? Because because a lot of people,
you could say that. I
yeah,
could agree with that. Yeah,
yeah. So, most of them are not drinking or smoking or doing those things, but fellowship is always done around food and not the
yes,
healthiest food. And so,
Yeah.
yes,
this
yes.
has been a big component of our ministry. And I'm glad you guys were able to see that spiritual component. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that. What does that look like for you guys?
For me personally, I am less tired and therefore I get up early. So I normally blame, oh, I'm so tired. I have to go take care of my son and not getting the time to have my devotion. Now I'm at up like 6 a.m. My son, if he's still asleep, I can have my devotion and then I go work out. And
Mm,
now I can put more time in, with God. I don't, it's like, it's not an excuse anymore. Like I have the energy. I get up. I mean, I'm healthy, glowing, just not just physically, but also when you read the word, you start living it basically.
For example, there are other areas in my life that I would like to do better at.
sure,
And the fact that we went through this and I feel more energetic, I feel more um, healthy in general. I feel like I can do more, you know, um, wake up in the morning, more energy, and that just carries through the day,
hmm
so it definitely.
for sure, for sure. So really interesting because I often say that if you're not reading your Bible, you're making up God in your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is that a lot of Christians, that's where they fall short, is that they're not reading the word.
Right.
And I recently had an interview that was super, super powerful. And she was mentioning exactly this. She actually came through the program, lost a ton of weight, and then regained 10 pounds back. And then she kept looking at the scale, and the scale wasn't, it wasn't going the way she wanted it to go. And she said, I was looking in the wrong place. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I was looking at the scale when I should have been looking at my devotional time. Mm-hmm. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, talk to me about that, because that's powerful, right? And she said, when I am in my devotional time with God, God strengthens my willpower, because it is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's within His will. And because I'm praying for those things, He only grants those things that are aligned with Him. And self-control is one of those for the life of the believer. She said, so when I started praying for self-control, He gave me that. And now I didn't have to force myself and kind of discipline myself to do things. It just started to come natural as a byproduct of my devotional time with Him. Yeah. So this is what's cool, right? So now you start to feed your body the right fuel. You start to move in the right direction. You start to get up earlier. And with that extra energy and that extra time, now you pour it into reading the Word, which then brings along this cascade of benefits in your life. Yeah. And, I love the saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. True. And so even though, I don't believe that fitness and nutrition is the end all do all, I know who moves the needle. I do believe it is an important component of everyone's life, but specifically the believer, right? Because it enhances that communion with God, which is super, super powerful. And, I was thinking about that scripture of like, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me, I will remain in you. Without me, you can do nothing. Right. And being able to get into your devotional time and being in the vine, right, it's a game changer. So then I tied something and I said, well, how do I tangibly show people how to become self-controlled? And I said, through the actual exercise of taming your hunger and activating your physiology, God can use that to strengthen our self-control and willpower to get into His actual Word. Yeah. Because we're communal learners, right? So we learn from each other, and we learn from other activities. If we do one activity well, we can bring that activity over to the other side and be very successful. And so that's how I connect the dots with this whole idea of how fitness and proper nutrition have the ability to really help you engage your spirituality, which I think is super, super powerful. Do you guys feel restricted in any way, shape, or form by food at this point?
Initially, I thought I felt restricted, especially when we were supposed to go on our vacation. I'm like, this is not going to work. We're from a place where you eat a lot of food, and the food is good.
Yeah.
To give a backstory to that, we had planned this trip before this journey, and we were planning to wild out. Like, we missed that food. It's been 2 years. We're gonna just go wild. And then for some reason, on our anniversary, we made the decision to start this program, not thinking about the trip. And so we were like, okay. When we realized that, we have a trip coming up, we were like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do now? Because we were planning to go wild and crazy the last time we did. Now we were planning to do that again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do. So we were kind of worried, and of course you would have helped us through that phase. And we can talk some more about that.
Yeah. So you guys went on vacation. Not only did you not go wild, you enjoyed yourself, but you guys came back. You guys came back and you gained very little weight.
Yeah. Yeah, she
half a pound.
She gained half a pound. I think I lost half a pound, which was like, what? That was so surprising.
That's crazy. Okay, so Haiti, half a pound. You actually lost weight. What was it like last time when you went wild?
We probably gained a couple of pounds. We actually don't. Back then, we never used to check our weight like that. We never used to do any checks. So we just eat whatever, and maybe the next doctor visit we'll check our weight then. But
Yeah.
it was never a regular thing for us.
Wow, that's powerful, guys. So okay, so you have freedom around food, you have this awareness around food, which is awesome. And I think that the big idea here, the big theme of this interview is that whatever you focus on expands, right? And so
Yes.
you went from not being aware of what you were eating, what you were weighing, to now having that awareness, and with that awareness comes the ability to make better choices,
Absolutely.
right? So very, very powerful. Question for you. Do you guys in any way, shape, or form, like, what are those conversations you guys have between each other? Is it like, I think we might regain this weight back? And do you feel like that at all?
Oh no. So last night we were going through our old photos from 2019, 2017, and Edward is like, "Oh my god, I'm so huge. I'm so huge." He's like, "I've never put in this weight back on." And that time we felt like, 'cause I thought I would fly then, and I'm like, "Oh, I would fly." But then looking at myself now, I'm like, "Oh no, you were not." I had so much weight on, I didn't even realize.
Right.
And I don't think we put the weight on back because we've been getting so many compliments. We go to Pennsylvania, we go to Jamaica, and they're like, "Oh, you look so amazing." And
Yeah.
if you know Jamaican people, they're very extra, especially if you put a pound on, you are so big. But this time when we went home, everyone was like, "You guys look so amazing. You still look so amazing. What are you doing?" And the fact that our parents were on board with our diet. We had vegetable most of the time, and my mom cooks, and she's like, "What are you going to have today? Are you going to have vegetable this morning?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And they were even trying to just accommodate us and trying to go on the plan with us. So I think if we were there longer, would have made a bigger impact.
Wow. So amazing, amazing stuff. You guys have awareness around food. You have freedom. You know what you're doing. You grasp the
Yeah.
idea as well, right? Like, this is not something where you now. I mean, you're welcome to always call me and ask me questions, but you guys know what to do. You have a plan, right? And
Yes, yes.
and that was the original idea behind this whole thing. Is like, hey, I want to give you guys independence so that you never need a guy like me. I don't know if you remember me telling you it's a horrible business plan for me because you'll never need me again. Remember that when I said that?
And you know what? That is actually a good thing because you have given us a roadmap. Like a lot of plans, like you lose the weight, but then you go back on. Like we now have a roadmap. Like if something should happen, God forbid, or I have a baby and I gain some weight, I know what to do.
Sure.
And that is very commendable on your side because you didn't have to teach us everything.
Right.
You could have just given us some information where we have to come back, but it was not that case. So we appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I would share the same sentiment. Initially, as I said earlier, we knew nothing. I've watched a few videos on YouTube, and I'm like, man, I want to do that, and we try for a week, and then we fall off. But coming on this program, you gave us actual manageable steps like eat this now, eat that later, eat this. And for example, I thought we would be like eating 2 meals a day,
Yeah.
But you gave us like 4 meals a day. And I'm like, man, I never even used to eat four meals a day. But maybe I used to eat more snacks throughout the day.
Right.
But then 4 meals a day, I'm like, okay. But then I realized there's a reason behind all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find myself not being hungry when I stick to your plan. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm actually not hungry. So
That's
when the third meal is around, I'm like, you need to. She used to cook the food and take it in, and I'm like, you need to take a break. That's too much food. So I would say this has definitely given us a lot of
freedom,
a lot of information to walk with.
Yeah.
For the rest of our lives, I would say.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So I want to end this interview with something that, I think every time I'm hearing you here and I'm thinking about the scripture in Romans chapter 12, where it says, this is Paul. And to preface this, I don't think Paul is advocating a six pack, but he's talking about glorifying God. And he says in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, he says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. And then he goes on and he says this. He says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect, right? I bring this up because it talks about being a living sacrifice, and that includes food as well. It talks about
Yes.
being transformed by the renewing of your mind, and not to conform to the patterns of this world, which is to eat garbage and to sort of, anytime something happens that you should reward yourself with bad food, but instead to transform and be renewed, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's all happened in these 90 days. And I just, I want to congratulate you guys. I commend you guys for your efforts. Please remember that I don't do transactions. I do relationships. And so I'm here as long as you want to have me around, and I'm here to answer any of your questions. And guys, keep doing what you're doing. Big up.
Respect.
Respect, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we just pray God continue to extend and expand your ministry, because it's actually a ministry.
Yes, absolutely. Amen. Thank you so much, guys. Just hang on really tight here. Let me say goodbye to people on the other side. So, guys, you just heard this interview with this amazing couple. You see the possibilities. Maybe you are on the other side and you're wondering, is this really for me? I've tried so many other things and I haven't been successful. I think you heard this firsthand from a couple who went on vacation. They have a family, they're busy, and yet they managed together, right, to lose almost 65 pounds, 32 pounds each. And they did it in a very short period of time. And they have freedom around food. They have a roadmap. And the same can be very true for you. And so if you're on the fence, the Empty Your Bucket plan can definitely bring a sustainable solution to your life. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the interview. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.